Hi, my name is Chris Penny, and we're going to do an anatomy of a short film, a film I just completed titled Poaching Death. And it's an independent film short, approximately 12 minutes in length. And I made this whole film for a total of $500. So we're going to break it down. Okay, we'll start with the opening sequence. I shot a lot of these with the GoPro Karma drone, set at 4K, 60 frames per second. A lot of footage was a little bit grainy, so I had to crop in some stock video as well. So once we move inside the bar, we do some cutaway shots to establish the scene, and we are fortunate enough to have the Accidentals let us use one of their songs. So this dance sequence features the amazingly talented Carrie Bradstreet and is an homage to the Quentin Tarantino film Dusk Till Dawn, the scene with Salma Hayek dancing. Since it's a $500 film, we couldn't afford to wrangle a real snake, so we have a rubber one. So now we're jumping to the front of the bar, and we shot the dance sequence first so we could let all the extras go. And this really scene sets up the entrance of the main antagonist in the film, which is Death One. So Death One is played by the incredibly talented Don Ziegler. Here he is entering through the exit-only door. So we used a 750 watt light on the door to really provide a lot of contrast, and we had a fog machine, and that required probably 6-7 takes because of the inconsistencies in the amount of fog.
You understand? I'm not ready.
And this character playing our protagonist Bobby is none other than Corey Falk, a local actor here from Grand Rapids.
Whatever you want.
And our original intent was to give him kind of a Jesse Pinkman type look, to play that Jesse Pinkman type character. This entire short was shot with 2 cameras, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and the Blackmagic Ursa. And the title sequence here is just me dressed in costume, shot on a green screen, and photoshopped. Here's where the other antagonist, Death 2, enters. It's played by the talented Spencer Tomlin, a British actor who has the amazing ability to read a script once and basically know it by heart, which is great when you're directing a film to have somebody with this ability. He played the Death 2 character with a little bit more of an edge than we originally intended, but I think it worked pretty well. Both Spencer and Don had great chemistry together, which worked really well while shooting this film. So after reviewing the first cut of this film, it seemed like it needed some additional comic relief, so I reached out to the writer who wrote me these 4 asides, which seemed to accomplish what I asked him to do. This was a great little bar to shoot at. It was located off of Lake Michigan Drive, and one half was completely vacant, the other half was operational. You'll see the bottles in the background were just bottles that we had collected before shooting, and we filled them with water and food coloring. But being such a small location, we had a difficult time with all the lighting that was required for the scene. So occasionally you'll see a light stand, which you can see in the background at some locations. And there's actually some areas where you'll see boom mic shadows and things on the wall that required a lot of frame-by-frame masking. But I didn't get them all, so there's one in the background there. The Grim Reaper costumes you see here were all handmade and designed by Tammy Plant, a local costume designer. Credits to the actors. It was an incredibly hot day, about 90 degrees in July, and we couldn't turn any air on because of obviously the background noise. For the over-the-shoulder shots here, I used the Blackmagic Ursa camera with the Nikon 50 and 85 millimeter lenses, which I thought provided an awesome cinematic image. We also had a slider available for a lot of the 2 shots that we did. I think Don did a really awesome job with his asides here. We shot these outside downtown by the river. I used a lav mic on Don just because of the water noise was so loud we couldn't use a boom mic. But you can see his angst building, but really knocked these out of the park.
score a grave or two here and there.
One of my favorite things about shooting outside is you don't have these elaborate and complicated lighting setups, so it's always nice to shoot outside. Some of the issues we had to contend with were it was a loud amount of noise coming from the other side of the bar that was fully operational in the kitchen, so we had to use a lot of sound effects and things like that to mask out that sound. Didn't have the ability to do a ton of ADR in this film, as the actor schedules didn't permit it. So the scene is supposed to be about 2 in the morning, but clearly you can see from the fabric that's blowing in the background window there that it's bright. It's probably 12, 1 o'clock noon, July, really sunny day. And I really couldn't do much about that, but those are the type of things you have to deal with when you're shooting a film. It's just these unknowns that happen. Also, another thing that's incredibly difficult is when we, move away from these over-the-shoulder shots and 2 shots and cut away to the wide shots. Recording audio is really tough because the boom mic can't be in the scene, and you want to get the proper recording distance, which you really can't do. So you have to get creative and use cuts from different takes to make it, sound at least consistent to what you have here during the dialogue between the 2 actors in the over-the-shoulder and 2 shots. You also have to be really careful that you don't break the 180 rule, especially when you're going back and forth between the over-the-shoulder shots and cutting with wides and medium close-ups and things like that. So you got to pay attention to the camera placement. In this particular scene, we have Spencer at a grill. We just added some fog effects, masked them out, some sound effects to mimic grilling, and then the actual shot of the food was just B-roll. For the most part, I really like the way the look and feel of this film is. I used Adobe Premiere for the edit and Lumetri color, and then the Magic Bullet plugin to do the final color grading. I used the cutaway to Corey here just because I lost the focus of my camera. Then I do a smash cut to this cutaway scene, which I originally was going to cast and shoot this, but ended up just getting some stock footage, and my wife recorded some layers of voiceover, and we used a soundtrack from a local band called Bowery, and I think it turned out pretty good. A lot of these extremely tight shots you see on Don here weren't really intentional, but I had a big honking light in the background that was really causing problems. And not having a crew, we just couldn't get enough people to help move things around. So I just worked with it, did what I could, and used cutaways to mask some of the problems. So at this point, when Death 2 leaves, the scene takes on more of a darker feel. And that can be accomplished with obviously the acting, but the addition of sound effects and maybe a change in the music. Don's accent in this film is kind of a mix between the Sopranos character, Paulie Walnuts, and a previous character he played in one of my films called Two Guns in a Body Bag, where he was a mafia boss. So again, most of the close-ups here are shot using the Ursa 4K camera by Blackmagic with a 50mm, 85mm Nikon lens. The other camera is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K with a 24 to 105mm Canon lens and a Metabone adapter. All the audio was recorded using a Sennheiser mic and a Tascam digital recorder set to -12 decibels. And really in post-production, there's a lot of normalization, compression, equalization, noise reduction. I used a de-esser and a hard limiter to achieve the best audio that I could under the constraints that we had. I used a little different color grade on the Bobby character, and I wanted to make him look a little bit sickly or malnourished. Okay, so we're getting really dark here. I love the way this scene turned out. This is, again, the Blackmagic Ursa. Great rim lighting using an 85mm lens. And then the wide shots are back to the 24 to 105. And then slowed it down in post to give it more of a dramatic effect. Obviously added some sound effects and, dragged out the scene a bit. This is the unfortunate part of the scene. I love the way it ended, but I wish I would have got a better shot of Death One or Don's face as he's leaving the building, but it's just something that we missed and we had to live with. With short films, they're obviously easier to shoot than a full-length feature, but this one presented a lot of challenges. We had to shoot the entire film in one day based on the availability of the location and the limited availability of the actors. Additionally, we had a very minimal operating budget, under $500. I'll talk about the equipment requirements for this film. We had 2 Blackmagic cinema cameras, 1 Sennheiser boom mic, and a Tascam audio recorder, obviously 2 costumes, 1 fog machine, a low lighting kit consisting of 1 750 watt light, and we had 3 500 watt lights in a gel kit. Our crew, we had 2 camera operators, 1 sound person recording sound. We had a gaffer doing lighting for about a quarter of the scene. And then we had about 10 extras. I had a casting call for about 30, but only 10 showed up. And then 3 main actors, obviously a makeup kit and a makeup person. And then we had some props that were involved, mostly bottles that we filled with water and food coloring. And then we had craft services. We had catering provided by Jimmy John's. And really that is the basics and the essentials of Poaching Death. Again, I want to thank all the actors, the crew, cast, and the performers for hanging out with us and helping us out with this film. And thanks to everybody that came to the premiere and to the Thriller Chiller Film Fest. And, keep on making films and help us make them better. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed this.
Get me out of this parking lot. Get me out. Astray, no pay, a voice like Marvin Gaye. He's picking pebbles on his gravestone.
Do you think they'll let me have like a preview? Like a movie trailer. One of heaven and one of hell. That way I can kind of see what I'm getting into. That's reasonable, don't you think? I'm kind of thinking hell. I'm leaning hell, just because, even if there's a little bit of torture, I'm thinking that's really gonna have the good stuff. That'd be pretty cool. It's not like I'm tortured or anything already.
GPS. Goddamn GPS. Those big boss men love that fucking GPS. They track you everywhere, and I mean everywhere. The other day I get some memo and asks me why I spend so much time in the crapper. I'm getting old. Things don't work the way they used to work. It don't take no fucking brain trust to figure that one out. So I'm a little late for an appointment. They act like the whole damn universe is gonna cave in because somebody lives a few extra seconds. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so this is like the worst night of my life. I mean, if you're listening to them, it's like the last night of my life, I guess. It's not like I haven't heard that before. But now I have to bargain with death. You think he'll listen to reason? I don't know. Whatever.
What? It's not gonna mow itself.
I couldn't see through the crowded dance floor just then, 'cause I was asleep. The sedatives and